welcome back to AM Northwest. Most of you know I love true crime, especially when it comes to podcasts. Here to share some of her favorites that will have you rethinking ever dating again. We welcome back New York Times bestselling author and true crime buff, Chelsea Cain. Great to see you, buddy.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi. Okay, these are, what we're saying podcasts are, these are Love Gone Wrong podcasts.
It seems like a nice follow-up to the Bachelor segment.
Yeah. It certainly is. So let's start with the first one that you recommend, Bad Dates.
Bad Dates. It's just what it sounds like.
Yeah.
There's a stand-up comedian host who has a guest or two on, and they talk about bad dates they've gone on. And it's hysterical. We talk about how there are podcasts that are headphone podcasts,
Okay.
right, that you don't want to listen to when you might have
other
children or strangers or
right.
people just walking through your space.
Right.
This is like an over-the-ear headphone. Like you want big, noise-canceling headphones so that you can just chortle to yourself.
Yeah.
And if anybody asks while you're chortling, just say, like, I'm listening to Vivaldi. You don't have to tell them what you're listening to.
Now, when you say bad dates, like what age are the people who've gone on these dates?
They're very grown-up dates.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
gay, straight, and everything in between.
Okay.
And they're funny people, so
Yeah.
they tell very funny stories about very bad dates.
Oh, I love it.
Yes.
Okay, the next one you have, Snapped, Women Who Murder.
Snapped Women Who Murder.
You had me at it.
yeah.
At Snapped.
Snapped Women Who Murder and its companion podcast, Snapped Couples Who Murder. Big fan. Spoiler, the woman did it.
Yeah. Well, she just snapped.
But she snapped, like,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
Usually,
it happens.
sometimes something caused her to
Yeah,
snap.
I mean,
sometimes they had it coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes not. Sometimes there's just life insurance involved. But it's always a very satisfying little ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Okay, and then there's something called Smoke Screen. I Am Rama.
Yeah, I Am Rama is a podcast about this, we'll call him a spiritual leader. Many people would call him a cult leader, who was like really big in the 80s. And what I find really interesting about it in terms of the topic of love gone wrong is that, you know, what is a cult if not love gone wrong? It's like people
Right.
really found so much satisfaction in their relationship with him, and it improved their lives, and he loved bombed them, and then
Right.
at some point they were like, wait a minute.
Yeah. They realized they were one of many being love bombed.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's a nice metaphor for a relationship. And I, like, when I listened to it, there were a couple episodes where I was like, you know, this guy has some really good ideas.
Like what?
Well, he just has some really good ideas because he would sell his product as self-improvement, right?
Okay, gotcha.
And you wouldn't, you know, you don't develop a cult following if you don't have some good ideas.
Right, and charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
and he did. But he also drove a couple people insane and took a lot of money.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
There's that.
He was a bad boyfriend.
Yeah. Dirty John.
Yeah.
What an incredible podcast.
And most people know about Dirty John. He was this con artist who conned a woman and her adult daughters in Southern California, and a real piece of work, like
Yeah.
a real psychopath. And there's been both an adaptation, like a fictionalized adaptation,
Right.
And also like a documentary. So many people have seen those. But I really recommend that people, even if they've seen those, go back to the original podcast.
It is
'Cause it's
so good.
Really, really good.
Yeah, and you don't see certain things coming.
Yeah.
And how he did it is so amazing.
Yeah.
Because he not only romances one woman, but many other
Yeah.
women.
Yeah, and
right
how he
out
got
of jail,
away with
too.
it.
And he got away with it for a long
For
time.
a long time.
A long time. Undercover of Night.
Oh, Undercover of Night is about a woman named Sue Knight who died under mysterious circumstances in Texas. And she was very private. Not a lot of people knew much about her. So it's a long-form podcast that investigates the circumstances of her death, looking for answers. And it's under this sort of theory that love gone wrong led to her death.
Oh.
But it ends up being much more tangled and complicated than that, and becomes a kind of meta podcast about true crime podcasts and about our need for answers and our right to have them.
Oh, interesting,
Yeah.
because I do get frustrated with podcasts or shows that don't have an answer
Yeah.
for me at the end.
Right.
Who don't tell me who did it. World of Secrets, The Bad Guru.
Yeah, so this is a yoga cult, and I just feel like public service. Like, yoga is dangerous, people. Don't do it. You take one yoga class, and you find yourself locked in a compound in India. So I know people love it.
Yeah, but there are issues. Okay.
Yeah, yes.
And then, do you know Mordechai?
Mordechai. Do you know Mordechai?
Yeah.
Is a really great podcast, and it's the podcaster had a friend who fell in love with this guy Mordechai. You know, this like handsome millionaire.
Right.
And it turned out like a lot of women had fallen in love with him.
Oh.
This handsome millionaire than Mordecai. So it explores that and explores also our need to want to believe in the story people tell about themselves.
Yeah.
And our need to believe in the stories we tell ourselves about our own relationships and who we are to other people and what happens when that breaks down.
Interesting. Okay, something you wanted to chat about, which is something I find fascinating. You have suggestions on an If I Go Missing kit.
Yes. Well, statistically, one of your viewers is going to go missing, Helen.
Okay. So we're performing a public service
We
here.
are.
Okay.
I think this might save your life as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if people who listen to true crime know, this usually comes up, the If I Go Missing kit.
Right.
And the idea is to create a binder, and many of them, like, will suggest hair samples, fingerprints, list of your tattoos and scars, like all of that stuff.
Right.
But there are a couple things, like, it is, if I may say, forgive my use of the word overkill. But there's some really smart ideas as well. And one of the big ones is to make sure that, like, to leave your passwords. To make sure that your passwords are available to law enforcement. If you have a phone, like an iPhone, leave your keypad, password, but also your Apple ID password, because if they find your phone, next to your car and your purse, and you're missing, and there's blood spatter, but your phone's there. It's cracked, but it still works. You want them to be able to, like, enter that and like see your text messages and get some information. And on television, they make it look so easy, like that they get access to phones. And in fact, that's not true. They need a warrant. They have to go to the carrier. Different carriers
then you're
have
using up
different
time,
policies.
and you need that time to
right,
go
you
looking
do.
for
So, like, it'll help them ultimately find your body in the swamp.
So we want to speed that up.
We want to speed that up.
Yeah.
We want to be found sooner than that. And if you have your phone, if you manage to hold on to your phone as you're being dragged away, then your Apple ID is going to help them Find My iPhone to track you right away.
Right.
And that is key.
I love that.
And then just having a default share my location with a friend that is just always on.
Oh, good idea.
I think that is a great
That's
idea.
smart.
And I think I know how much you love animals.
Yeah.
Having a document in that folder that says, like, call this person to come take my pet.
Oh.
Like, if they do a welfare check and your apartment is empty and your standard poodle is there, that poodle's going to the pound.
No, not my poodle.
Unless there's
No
a
way.
document
No way.
that says, like, here's my poodle's emergency contact.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh my, Chelsea, these are all great ideas. Next time we have to talk about the movie that you're making.
Okay, yeah.
So next time we'll do that.
Okay.
But these are fascinating. I can't wait. And your choice is Commanda too. Way to go. Way to go. All right, we'll be right back with more AM Northwest. And we'll put this list on our website too at katu.com. We'll be right back.